Hello and welcome to Trish Rock TV and Energy Shift, changing energy, shifting perceptions. Our special guest this week is the very accomplished and mindful Sam Seghers. With a background in anatomy, biomechanics, and exercise physiology, Sam has been teaching adults for over 20 years now, starting from gym, English, business, moving to yoga, then recently adding mindful nutrition. She loves sharing ways for you to move more comfortably through life, to extend yourself in comfortable discomfort, always safe and pain-free. Having a history of going hard, keeping herself busy, and always at high levels of anxiety, or almost always with back and hip pain, something had to give. And in the end, it was her health. Mindful practices, including yoga, mindful eating, and meditation have been the key to Sam's gut healing, reducing anxiety, and alleviating depression. Sam loves that yoga is an individual practice, so poses can be modified to meet the needs of everybody, regardless of build. Each day is a new experiment with options for each person to find the best way to do their yoga, to help them listen to their body and keep comfortable and find the stillness that they need. Sam says, "There's nothing I share which is like boot camp or being yelled at in class. We need less strain, less pressure, less busyness, less doing, less pushing for more, and more self-awareness, more stillness, more safety, more just simply being, and more receiving of what is meant for us. But this doesn't mean just doing nothing. Try keeping your stillness in a stronger pose or balance." Sam's got a myriad of qualifications, including a diploma in vocational education and training design and development, mindful nutrition, applied science, Bachelor of Applied Science in exercise management, yoga training, yin yoga training, Veda yoga training, restorative training, baby bliss, pre and postnatal training, yoga therapy for back training. Absolutely incredible. And it is my great honor and pleasure to welcome my gorgeous, wise friend, Sam Seghers. Hello.
Hi, Trish. Thank you so much for having me on. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. What an amazing background you've got. And also, you know, your passion in life has really been guided, I guess, by your own journey. So, you know, where did all this start? You had a background in really high stress stuff, and you were in Japan for 20 years. So tell us about all of that and the 20 years of teaching, 12 years in Japan, the 20 years of teaching TESOL. What's that?
TESOL. TESOL is teaching to speakers of other languages.
Oh.
I was teaching adults who were not native English speakers.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started off in Japan for 12 years teaching, you know, mostly Japanese, but the occasional Korean and South American, so either Spanish or Portuguese speaker. But mostly it was 99.9% Japanese speakers. And then when I came back to Australia, I continued doing that for a few years. Before that, I was a gym instructor while I was a student doing my exercise management. Yep. So I had been teaching adults for 20 odd years. Within the TESOL, I then expanded into the vet sector because I was teaching those international students coming to Australia. There were vet courses in English, but also they were doing business courses as well. So the certificates in business. So went into that area as well. Before that all just became too much.
Yeah.
So I I loved living in Japan because it's a very highly populated, but considering the population, very quiet place. The trains are very quiet. So coming to Australia, it was very noisy. Service was terrible. The food was awful and expensive by comparison. It has improved. So has service in many places. Generally speaking, the Japanese culture, there's that built-in politeness that exists in English-speaking cultures. So I found everyone quite abrupt and rude when I came back here after being in culture. So I became very stressed at work. I ended up stopping working for mental health reasons, too much anxiety. I was sick all the time.
Yeah.
And before I stopped work, I had started doing yoga once I came back to Australia initially. And then I started learning to teach yoga because I love teaching and I love helping people.
Yes.
It's just that wasn't the right area for me to be teaching anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think that is an innate quality in you, that you are a teacher. But, you know, if your body and your mind isn't functioning well, you can only push through that for so long. So, I mean, ultimately that all came crashing down. And you know, as you and I both know, everything's always in divine timing, and it's brought you to where you are here. But how was that time for you when everything was imploding?
It was pretty nasty. I mean, I come from a background where you don't share a lot of information, but anger is clearly displayed.
Yeah.
And because I was anxious, people pleasing, and also had, and still, I suppose, have issues with blood sugar where I get quite hangry. So, whereas now I'll notice sooner when I'm getting to that point and eat something. So I would push as hard as I could and then snap when either I was totally overwhelmed, when I was doing too much for other people and had that expectation that they would do things for me,
Yeah.
but that expectation isn't realistic in any way. So assuming that other people had that want to help all the time beyond their own physical and mental capabilities, because that's really where I was at, and I would just assume other people would push themselves that hard.
Yeah.
And so when that all came crashing down, it was quite dark for a while. I'd say I had a couple of years where I was depressed, and I did get to the point where I felt suicidal, and I ended up connecting with a friend who in the past had listened to me, which is something I hadn't really attracted a lot of through my life. But it's also possible that that's because I had deflected a lot of personal questions.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sharing, so I didn't have listeners.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. We manifest that.
getting to the point where initially one friend started listening because I said there is an issue.
Yeah.
But still being in that, why doesn't anybody else notice kind of mode, even though I wasn't sharing.
Yeah.
But eventually bringing that back to myself and understanding that I need to be happy with what I'm doing.
Yes.
And I need to pay attention to what I'm doing. So I'm teaching yoga, telling people to pay attention to any little twinges or niggles or anything in their body when they're doing poses. But here I am ignoring all of that emotional side of my body.
Yes.
I'm paying attention to the physical.
Interesting. Yeah. And you know, I think it's quite common for many of us who are quite driven in our careers to be in a corner crumbling somewhere and wondering why nobody notices, but we're not open in actually showing anybody. So it's that whole vulnerability side of things that you know, we need to be a little bit more open with, because that's the beginning of our healing.
Exactly. And so once I got to that point, I thought, okay, well, I'm not doing it I really enjoy. beyond teaching. I love the teaching of yoga and running workshops and all that. But in my free time, what was I doing? I was panicking about not earning enough money. I was worried because I didn't have the strength and energy to do things. And none of my friends had time to catch up. All they lived overseas and things like that. So I joined a bushwalking club, and that most recently has been a really good step in I'm getting connection.
Yes.
Which is great. But being a HSP, I can't have too much people time because I get overwhelmed. So HSP is a highly sensitive person,
yes,
and I need downtime.
Yeah.
But I found in the bush, it balances that out a lot. So I can spend all day with these people, plus an hour and a half in the car with them either way. And well, I'm tired. I've been walking all day. I've been chatting for a good portion of it, but you still get that time in silence. You can smell the earth, the waterfalls. It's all fantastic.
It's still energizing you. I've really noticed that about you, all the pictures that I see and all the adventures you're having. You just look so full of energy and glowing from the inside out, and you're still around people. So yeah, it's interesting. We need to find what suits us, don't we?
It is. And I think something that helped was I did get some personal sessions with a very good sound healer. And I had 6 weeks of sessions with her, and that opened up physically. It opened up my diaphragm, my ribs, which meant I could do some yoga poses I hadn't been able to do before. But it opened me up to thinking, okay, I'm worth this. I can spend time on me. I can drive 2 hours to enjoy some bushwalking.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, I'd be like, well, I can't spend that time or that petrol. And
so. Yeah, I can totally relate to that too. We just get so stuck in stuff.
So now I'm hoping that the attention I'd been paying to my body through the yoga, if I can pay that attention to how I'm feeling mentally. And I've just noticed the last couple of weeks, I'm stopping when I need to. It's like, I'm just going to lie here under a cat or two, and the universe knows the cat would wake up.
and you know, that self-care is what you teach people in your yoga classes too.
Exactly. So yeah, I'd like to start doing as I say as well as what I do.
We're always our worst student, aren't we? Always. Whatever you teach. I know, you know, many times I've said to myself, I need to go and, you know, reread the books I've written because I'm not taking any notice of it. So the core of your yoga teaching is about ease, and listening to the body, and you know, working a little bit out of the comfort zone but still staying safe. But let's talk about the mindful tours that you're going to be doing. Will they include yoga, or are they completely different and separate to that? But probably first of all, let's ask what brought you to want to do the mindful tour?
Well, I lived in Japan for 12 years, and I love Japan. I love that culture. I love the respect and those traditional parts of the culture that really cultivate that time of noticing steps and following steps and being in that moment, because the steps are complex.
Yeah.
So these aren't simple things to do, but if they were simple, it would be hard to stay in the moment. So because there are multiple steps in tea ceremony, the exact way to fold the handkerchief, the way you move the bowl, things like that, that brings you into the moment, because if you don't stay in the moment, you end up making mistakes.
Okay.
And Japan's one of those countries where making mistakes is seen quite negatively. It's not seen as a way of gaining experience. So systems, let's call them. They call them ways, the ways of doing things. Bring you into that moment. And it's not just tea ceremony, flower arrangement, there's an incense ceremony, but also the martial arts follow that system of things being done in a certain way, step by step, to discipline yourself, to keep you in and keep you with your breath, noticing the things around you, but only the things that are important to that time and place.
And for us, for most of us living here in Australia and probably several other parts of the world, we don't integrate those mindful routines or practices into our day. But it is quite a it is just a normal thing in Japan to have those practices.
Not everybody does it. Some people play soccer, some people play baseball. But there is the opportunity at school and university to be in clubs where they do these different activities. And because those activities are linked to the language and the culture, they're all influenced by each other. So, but even the food, the cooking, and the collection of ingredients, the way the food is prepared, the way the food is eaten, hot spring, the way you bathe, the steps involved. So those things, and that includes home bathing. There's those steps and processes that are followed in daily life. And I think they keep people in the moment much more than a bit of slapdash of what goes on over here. And
and so will you be including things like that in your mindful tour?
So with the mindful tour, I try to have, so we do move to different places. So it is not a retreat in the sense that we stay in one spot. But different towns out of the main cities. The cities are very busy and all the signage is in English. So most people can get themselves around. I'd like to take people to smaller towns, out of the way places, and to do these activities they may not be able to get to without a Japanese speaking guide. So if there's a big transport day where we've got more than a couple of hours on a train, we may not have a mindful activity. We might do some yoga or meditation instead. But I try to have at least, if it's a week-long tour, 6 mindful activities. It
sounds like I'm just getting, so a retreat is usually about mindfulness too, but it's in one place. This is kind of like a moving meditation, isn't it? It's kind of like a moving retreat of mindfulness and stillness. And seeing the country as well.
You see the country as well. And it is possibly a bit more applicable to daily life, because in daily life, you're not stuck in a silent place all day. It's lovely to have those breaks where you can recharge. But if you can do a portion of your day as mindfulness and then get out and sightseeing or whatever, in that case of being in Japan, but if you're at home, you'd go to work or go shopping or do the other things you have to do in daily life. So by being aware and noticing those things around you as you travel, for example, on the long distance trains, you don't talk a lot. Whereas here, people would talk, the entire trip. In Japan, people might say a few words and then they'll go quiet because it's just a bit rude because everyone's trying to catch up on their sleep and things.
Because they all work very long hours too.
They do. So the idea of being able to do something mindful and try to take that into the rest of your day. And for example, if the mindful activity was a morning activity, you would have the afternoon free. And if free for you means you'd like to go sightseeing or shopping for secondhand kimono or trying different foods, that's perfectly fine. If you'd like to find a hot spring and relax or stay in your room and read a book, that's perfectly fine. So I like to have enough space so people can do the things they want to do while they're there.
Yeah.
and massage as necessary.
And so these tours that you're going to be doing, what was the inspiration for that? Was it just your time in Japan and loving all of that, and then your journey with your health, etc.? Is that brought you to that place? Because probably a couple of years ago you wouldn't have imagined doing these mindful tours. So what's the driving force for you behind taking people on these tours?
Well, the first tour I actually did was before I crashed.
Okay.
So I was very anxious and very stressed, but hadn't yet recognized it.
Okay.
And I did a tour, and it was a longer period of time. I didn't price it appropriately for me to earn any money. And it became very, very stressful as I went on. I also didn't allow enough free time.
Yeah.
So with the new one that I'm doing, there's that free time to go sightseeing by yourself. I will help you figure out where you would like to go and which buses to catch or how to get around. There's full support with that kind of thing. But I will not take people, because people do things at different rates. People are interested in different aspects. Yeah. So I think that freedom is important, and people can embody those mindful activities as they do that.
It's important for you too to kind of let that go, you know, because you don't want to end up anxious and stressed either. So
exactly. And the reason I decided to do it was I love Japan so much. Why shouldn't I share it? And I'd speak to people about Japan, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, I want to go skiing in Japan." I'm like, "That's not Japanese." Or Universal Studios, and I'm just like, yeah. I'd like to share the bits of Japan I do love, and that within the culture, that support and the way they treasure those traditional arts, and the people who do them are seen in, you know, a very good light and things like that. So if I can share some of that with the world, I thought that would be great. And it links so well with the yoga that it didn't seem like I was going in a completely different direction, because the idea of both is that self-awareness and following certain steps to keep yourself within the moment.
Yeah. It really just follows on from it, doesn't it? It follows on from yoga practice. And, you know, talking about yoga, you know, for a moment, I think the way that you teach yoga is, you know, because you're not pushing anybody to twist up like a pretzel, there's no pressure. Anybody who comes to your classes, there's no pressure to do anything. You don't have to you know, outdo your neighbor kind of thing, which is pretty prevalent in a lot of yoga classes. The pressure's there to be perfect in every pose. So I love that you're a bit more gentle with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the premise, the basic premise of yoga is balancing that effort and ease.
Yeah.
And when you have people who are naturally a bit more flexible, they may not realize other people can't do that, in the same way I didn't realize that other people wouldn't, you know, push themselves beyond their health limit for others. I personally am not a very bendy flexy person.
Yeah.
Or sorry, I'm not a very bendy flexy yoga teacher.
Okay.
Because I've been teaching now for almost 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm more bendy and flexy than most of the people I teach.
Okay.
But again, I would like people to learn what they can do with their bodies.
Yeah.
Stop before they get to the pain point, or if they arrive with pain, before there's any new pain.
Yeah.
So that, I call it comfortable discomfort, and a few of my ladies will laugh at me and go, yeah, comfortable discomfort. I'm like, comfortable discomfort, stop. If you can't breathe, stop.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, ways to adapt the poses so that anybody can do them. You know, I've got a gentleman who comes down to beach classes, he's over 80.
Yeah.
He's had his knees replaced. He had his eyes, I can't remember if it was lasers or corneas or one of those things. And, you know, he needs to. Other people have knees that they've probably done a bit much on in the past, or for example, he can't lift one arm, so he puts it up with the other arm, and once it's up there.
It's up. Yeah. It's just finding new ways, isn't it? Finding new ways to work with a body that doesn't perhaps want to work as well as it used to. But that comfortable discomfort allows you to stretch just that little bit each time, so that ultimately even after a few classes, but definitely after a period of time, you can do it with more ease.
Exactly. Or do it for longer, or your tree pose, your foot might be higher up your leg, or you can balance longer. All of those things help with everyday mobility.
Absolutely, and they help with that core strength, which also helps with all the internal organs. It's just a big flow-on effect. But the biggest thing, and you know, the core of all of it is the mindfulness and the process of being in the moment. And so that's followed through with yoga and through everything you do in your tour, and everything you teach.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that within that mindfulness is that element of non-judgment.
Yeah.
Which should also be in the yoga classes.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be judging anybody else. You shouldn't be judging yourself.
Yeah.
Because today we wake up differently. It might be a bit cooler, so your back's a bit stiffer. You might have slept funny, so one shoulder's a bit uncomfortable, so your arm won't come up as high. So there's no point comparing side to side or, you know, day to day, let alone person to person. Yourself within where you're at on any particular day and accepting that without judgment is a part of that yoga. And myself having come from that very pushing myself background, and I see compared to when I was at school, everybody is pushing themselves or pushing their kids, their family. Everyone's pushing and busy all the time.
Yeah.
I think space and time to do nothing or to do something self-focused or downtime for the mind or the body, depending on what you need, is so important for mental health and physical health.
And to do it without judging yourself. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with, including me. And I'm sure you at one point, even just to have, you know, a nice easy day where you do have a few sleeps. You know, for me, it's because I do push myself. You know, all the brain would go in overdrive. Like, you should be doing this work. You should be doing this. You know, that's a waste of an hour if you just go and sleep or nap or whatever when you could have achieved this. And then the whole thing just keeps going all afternoon. Well, if I hadn't have done that, this would have. But now I'm okay with it. It's like, no, you know what? I just need to stop and have time for me. And I'm even having far less time on social media because that drains people as well. So to learn that being in the moment, but also without the self-judgment, is massive. It changes lives.
Totally. And I agree. And, you know, I come from a massive background of guilt and self-judgment. So
yeah.
Step for me to do that. And I mean, we still catch ourselves. I know I do.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh, wait a minute. No, you did the best you could in that moment at that time.
Yeah.
And okay, next time we might do it differently.
Yeah. And that's a really great way to let go of all the stuff we hold on from the past as well, because, you know, holding on to all that stuff, we only did what we knew at the time. And if we had have known better, we would have done better. But, you know, we hold on to that stuff so long with self-judgment and self-criticism. And that then displays itself in our body as some health issue as well, which is another thing that, you know, you're very aware of and help all your students with as well, because you can see something and think, oh, okay, well, that's the emotion of whatever else is blocked in there. Let's either do this pose or, you know, help them with diet or mindset to release those blocks as well. So you really do more than what people think you do.
There is that, and we also have a very good network of referrals as well. So I've belonged to, you know, osteos, massage therapists, integrative doctors, the sound healer, and people who work with divine feminine and that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
getting people into something that works for them.
yeah.
Because not everything resonates with everybody.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So when is your tour on this year? You just have the one this year coming up?
So originally I did have 2 back-to-back tours, but at this point, I've had no takers, possibly because the Rugby World Cup's on this year and the Olympics are next year.
Okay.
So is between about the 10th of November to the 20th, around then.
Okay.
I'm willing to take a group of 4 to 6 people for a week and do a bespoke tour. So if they're interested in that mindfulness, I can get them connected with the activities they'd like to try. If they'd like to go to smaller towns that are harder to get to, where there's less English on signage, and see and do different things, I would love to get 4 to 6 people, take them along, guide them through that, and give them the tour they want to do in Japan.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I'll have all the links here for that. What's the best way that people can get in contact with you about the tour? Is there a specific page or social media page, or just through your business page?
I'll give you the link, which is on that business page. So I'm at redcliffeyogaandmassage.com.
Yeah.
And it's /Japan 2019, I hope.
Yeah.
Japan. I should have.
Well,
but
yeah.
We'll put them below.
I'll have all the links here. Yeah, yeah.
And then you can email me. You can call me, and I do apologize if you do call me and it doesn't sound really great because I have terrible reception at home, but I will find a place where I can talk, even if I stand out in the middle of the street. So yes, just hang on if you can't quite hear me at the start of the call. But we can definitely organise something, and even if we FaceTime or used a computer, like a Zoom meeting or something like that, to talk to people, I can organise that. And
beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, because there might be, you know, a group of friends who might like to come, or even couples. So yeah, and so that's in November. So we'll have all the links for that. And you know, even if people wanted to just ring and talk with you about it to get even more information or more specific questions answered, they can connect with you through your pages and give you a call. And for the local people and you know, any people who are going on the tour don't have to be local. They can be coming from anywhere. Yeah.
In Tokyo.
Yes.
Or if it's a bespoke tour, we may meet in Osaka. It would depend where you're coming from and what you'd like to do.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so for the people who live locally in around the Redcliffe area in Queensland, you're still doing your yoga. You've got a beautiful studio at your place, and people can connect with you as well on these same links here to find out about your yoga. And you have tell us about the morning yoga. On the beach.
On the beach. Oh, sorry, that's an evening class.
Sunset yoga.
So I do sunset yoga every Sunday except Easter and a couple of weeks around Christmas.
Yeah.
We're currently at 4:30. From November-ish, we move to 5 o'clock because it gets too hot.
Yeah.
But we're overlooking Deception Bay and
Oh.
the Glasshouse Mountains and the sun setting, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Until October 4th, there are council classes, and council is funding those. So if you're local to the area, you just register through Moreton Bay Healthy and Active.
Wow.
And the Friday class is free.
Okay.
Also
Excellent. Excellent. That's great incentive.
exactly. And you can try it. You can see if you like the style I teach. Studio classes, we use a lot more props and cushions to get ourselves comfortable. And down the beach, because it's winter, we do go a little bit stronger because it's cold.
Yes.
Clothes, and we're all wrapped up like Michelin men doing yoga.
Still not as cold as some parts of the world. And it's really turning into spring here now. So beautiful, beautiful. So is there anything else you want to tell people about what you do or what you offer?
I suppose I just want to encourage everybody to understand that it doesn't have to hurt.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't have to hurt. If you're pushing yourself and everything seems a struggle, maybe that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And just having a think and a feel. And I know before I was more aware of my body and my own emotions, that was hard to understand. But through meditation, through yoga, through being able to just sit in silence, which is quite hard, you become more aware of what you actually want and what you actually are comfortable doing. Yeah. It's okay to feel that comfortable discomfort, but if it's painful, if it's really, really something you don't like, if you get the hate word, yeah, please understand it doesn't have to hurt.
Yeah.
Work in comfortable discomfort and comfort more often.
Yeah.
And just go from there. And if yoga and other mindful activities can help you find that place.
And you can find another way to do something, which is what you help people with. If they can't do a certain thing, you'll help them do it another way. And so there's always another way, and there's flexibility there too.
Exactly. Some people can't put pressure on their knees with their knees under their body, so we'll roll them on their backs and they'll have their knees above their body. And
yeah. And I think it's lovely that you accommodate all that, and it gives people new choices, which also keeps them coming back to class.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, the bunch I've had, my regulars, they all have a good sense of humour. So if you like to come along and have a bit of a laugh when we, go through poses and 2 more breaths, or if I don't say 2 more breaths and suddenly one of them pipes up and says 2 more breaths yet?
Yeah.
It's not all serious.
No, that's it. The class I was at, they certainly are a jovial bunch. It was fun.
They are.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling us about this beautiful work you're doing in the world. And, it's only going to grow from here. And I think the mindfulness tours are just so beautiful because they're just such a combination of everything, another culture. You're still seeing another country, but it's coming from a different place, and it's really coming from that place of stillness within you. And I just think it's really beautiful.
Thank you. And thank you so much for including me in the beautiful work you do.
Oh, thanks.
That's wonderful.
So I'll have all the links here for you guys to connect. If you're listening, make sure you check out what Sam does. If you're interested in the mindful tours in Japan, please reach out and ask Sam any questions that you want to know about it, and all the links are here for you to connect with Sam. So wonderful. Well, thank you, and thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Sam, and I will see you all next week for the next episode of Trish Rock TV. Bye for now.